Let's talk about AI specifically for marketers. Probably going to touch on salespeople also, just because I love salespeople. But I want to give you a quick update, some tips, maybe something new that you hadn't thought about yet in ways to leverage AI. Now, a lot of people spend a lot of money on fancy, AI tools, and they work well. But I think that ChatGPT, if that's all you have access to, isn't a barrier for you. When using these chat tools, the problem that most of us face is that we just don't phrase the question or the prompt correctly, and we ask it for a basic thing, and it gives us a basic answer. One of the things marketers are learning is that they have to be very articulate, clear, concise, and action focused when they write these prompts. So, for example, the novelty is wearing off where you write a script in the voice of Shakespeare where Batman is fighting Bugs Bunny in medieval Europe, right? Like, it's fun and it is on brand. Like, you'll have Batman in his batarangs, and anyway, I won't go down that rabbit hole. It works. Problem is that it is only giving you what you asked for. So it's not going to add a whole lot into it. And from a marketer standpoint, when they look at that, a marketing professional or a content person would say, oh, well, anybody can write that. My job's fine. A few months in, let's call, March, April, May timeline, things started getting interesting because more tools started coming online, more ways to aggregate different data types started happening, and content people were really worried. I started digging into this and really diving in and saying, how can I leverage this? So, over the last couple of months, as I've been talking to different companies, one of the things that has come up a lot is, hey, I just need messaging. I need a basic marketing framework to work in. I need my value propositions clearly developed with the reasoning behind those benefits to my product. And a lot of startup founders struggle with that information. They can say it, it would take them 15, 20 minutes to articulate it all because they're just so into the product. They know it all, but they have a really hard time saying, here's the 5 benefits. So using AI, what I started doing was trying to find ways to leverage existing tools and AI to build this stuff out much faster. So one of the individuals, one of the companies I was talking to said, hey, we've got this product. We have some basic messaging. Our website looks like crap, but we need it to be better. We need a content calendar. We need the things that go along with being a startup and kind of growing our audience. And so I took that as a challenge and I ran off and I created this, and you'll see it here. It was a spreadsheet where I used some basic Excel formulas and AI to generate a bunch of information from just a small subset of inputs. What I was able to do was take the name of the company, the name of the product, description of the product, a generic idea of what the audience was, and from there, map out all the value propositions, messaging to those individuals, an FAQ-based document for each of those individuals. So you have a buying committee of 3 or 4 people, like that's a lot of content. This is where ABM really became a thing, was how do I speak to 5 different decision makers in a company? Well, ABM fixed that by creating the messaging for each of those people. Well, now you don't need a writer to write this stuff. You have a robot that can do it all for you. And I think that scares a lot of agencies, but I think that agencies that adopt this are going to be much further along and much better off in the next year than the ones that are hiding from it. When I can get this information and I can say, okay, well, here's your new value propositions. And it's not new. It's not like I'm making them up. It's all based off of their product and the benefits of their product. The machine just analyzes that information in a much more concise way to the audiences that we identify. So using the spreadsheet, dump in your information, and what it does, it extrapolates it all out. And once it extrapolates out those key benefits, value propositions, the information about your audience, an initial marketing framework, all of those pieces, then what you're able to do is then take those and run it through a different machine that's actually building out the content. So I have started running a blog, and I said, okay, well, write me a topic on, let's say, how AI is revolutionizing high growth companies. Well, that's interesting. It'll write it, but what it is lacking is a lot of research, a lot of data points, anything that would support that topic. Well, Then what I started doing was saying, I need this stuff. And there's no way to really scrape the web in a real-time capacity. There's some tools out there, AI can do it, but I wanted to find a way that I can consolidate it into one space as much as possible. Okay, I have this thing, but now how do I create 100 of these things? Well, now you can create 100 of these things in minutes. And B2B content agencies are really scared by this because they are losing one of their biggest benefits, which is being able to create this stuff and be able to do the research and think through the stuff, the topics. And though AI may not be 100% to some of these writers, it's definitely 85 to 90%. And I think 85, 90% is more than enough for most of these startups to get going. If they're waiting for perfection, they don't launch. And most founders understand that they are not waiting for perfection. They need iterative, quick processes where they can get feedback loops and keep going. And the machine, the system that I built out, does exactly that. So I can adjust things. I can add in new stats. I can put in new research. As value propositions become even more clear or new stuff gets added into the products with new features, that can get added in. And it just rolls with it. And so all you need to do is say, I need 5 more blog posts. Bam, and it creates it. Oh, I need 10 more. There you go. I need a landing page on this topic, and it creates it. It creates all of this stuff in the back end. And you don't need to pay a fancy agency. You don't need to pay a team of writers. In many cases, you don't even be paying for one of these platforms that'll do most of this or some of this for you. You can build out your entire messaging framework this way. That became really interesting because then I started looking at what products were out there that would benefit on the tail end of this. So now I got my messaging, I have my value propositions, I know how I want to talk and position my product in the market. Now, how do I write those emails? How do I now target the different buyers? In many cases, there's still 5 to 6 decision makers in a B2B buying process. So how do I create that stuff? Well, because you already have the foundation laid, now you use another one of these and you start building it all out. When it gets to the sales professionals and they have to build out their sales cadences, I said, this might be where this thing breaks, but AI will pick it up. And sure enough, a few months ago, I came across a company called Reggie.ai, and that's exactly what they do. They take all the basic information about what your company does, its products, services, all that other stuff, and it says, okay, now I need to build out a sales cadence around this with emails, call scripts, all that stuff. So it takes care of all of that.